Yeah. I backed it out. Four-wheel drive. I got a stabilizer link to it. I got a power steering link. Power steering code. He said, I said, sometimes you come back to the story. Huh? Jump it. Both sides. Because when you say it, that's still good. If it's there's not one computer starting like 5, they have 10 more to do. Sometimes they'll mess up. They said they 17 times that's a good point. I'm going to take that warrant out. They said that.
Test, test. Is that working? All right. Very good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bible class on this chilly evening. It's nice and warm in here. Anybody have any good Valentine stories? I heard one from Brother Alan Jones. He was telling how he and Jill, they were planning to go out to the Texas Roadhouse there in Marion, I guess, on Tuesday night? What night? When was Friday? Friday, okay, yeah. And they had given their cards, and she had written things in there like were from their wedding vows. I love you for better or worse, richer or poor, in sickness and health. And they were getting ready to go out that night, and that's when she had an episode in the shower where her blood pressure just went really low, and she passed out, and we know what happened. But they didn't know it was blood pressure at the time. They thought it was some kind of neurological event. But anyway, instead of Texas Corral or Texas Roadhouse, they wound up with hospital food that night and shared their cards and everything. And so thankfully, everything turned out that it was caused by low blood pressure, but she does have a broken cranium right now, but she's doing much better. Maybe we'll even be here. But it just goes to show you those wedding vows that we make. That's a serious thing, for better or worse, sickness and health. They thought they were going to Texas Roadhouse. They had, fish sticks from the hospital cafeteria. So anyway, Lord willing, we'll see them on Saturday, and we can rejoice with them that they're doing better. Let's bow and we'll have a short prayer. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the things we've been able to do, and we're grateful that we can be here tonight to look at your word and talk about our marriages and how we can improve them. And we're just thankful for our spouses, and just pray you bless us as we strive to honor you through our marriages. In Jesus' name, amen. One thing I haven't stressed in a while, I just would like to mention is that, none of us have perfect marriages, that's for sure. And some of the things we've talked about, healthy habits and keys to a strong marriage, that's not meant to bang us over the head with and make us feel like, oh, I'm such a failure. None of us do all of those things. So it's possible to have a strong, healthy, good marriage and still not do everything on those lists that we talk about. But I will say this whole class is it's an opportunity for us to grow and find ways to strengthen those relationships. So nobody should feel beat up over this, and I hope we don't. It's the same thing with marriage. None of us that we talk about with parenting. None of us are perfect at that, but we can learn and grow and make things better. So I hope that's understood. All right. I did want to mention quickly about this event on Saturday, and I'm going to get to this right here. One of the things that we changed a little bit about the event was we were going to devote the whole Sunday afternoon session to a Q&A. We're not going to do that now. Alan's got some really good material to present, so he's going to have a lesson that's probably going to be 35, 40 minutes. And then we will perhaps do a short 20-minute question and answer over things related to this idea. So to that end, there's some question forms back there. If there's something that you want to ask Alan or that we want to talk about together in that time period, there's a form back there. Feel free to pick those up. We ask if you could submit those questions, either Saturday or even sooner than that, if you want to send it in a text, whatever, so that we can be thinking about that and preparing for it. But there's some copies back there if you want to pick one of those up. Encourage you to submit those. Now, I'll say right off the get-go, we're not guaranteeing that we're going to be able to talk through all those questions. That's a 20-minute time period there. We're going to probably be done by around 2:30. So, but I want you to submit your questions anyway. Tom and Jerry and I, we talked. This is an opportunity for you to share things that are on your mind, and maybe we won't talk about it that afternoon, but we will in the future. So we just kind of want to solicit input from the group and what questions are related to this topic. Okay? All right. I wanted to read through this section, and if it's all right, I'm going to lean on Maverick and Rick to do the reading for this, if we can divide it up. Rick, if you'll start it and run to about 20 through 27, and Maverick, you finish it off. But this is the major text for how we build strong marriages, Ephesians 5.
Wives, be subject to your own husbands, as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ also is the head of the church, he himself being the Savior of the body. But as the church is subject to Christ, so also wives ought to be to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her, so that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, that he might present to himself the church in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and blameless.
So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his own wife loves himself. For no one ever hates his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ also does the church, because we are members of his body. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and shall be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This mystery is great, but I am speaking with reference to Christ and the church. Nevertheless, each individual among you also is to goodness. Nevertheless, each individual among you also is to love his own wife, even as himself, and the wife must see to it that she respects her husband. Sorry.
That's all right, brother. I put that as big as I could to fit it on that screen. Any bigger? Yeah. So the exercise I want to go through, thank you, brothers, for reading that. Let's look at this. I make it a little bit smaller, but the parts that are highlighted might help with this. What are the instructions that are given to husbands? Love their own wives as their own bodies. That's one part of it. That's a big part of it. There's one even bigger than that. Very good. Those are the two things. Love your wives as Christ loved the church, and then as you care for your own self, your own being, love your wives. So, what are the instructions for wives? As to the Lord. There's something similar there, right? It's be subject to your husband as to the Lord. That's another super high standard, right? So that is for the wives. And then there's one other part in that. It's toward the end. Yes, to respect or honor your husband. Those two things. Husbands love, wives submit and show respect. So I review that with us just because I think it plays in to what we talked about at the end of the last class, where we were talking about things that our wives need. What are the things that she needs? To feel secure. She needs to feel valued, and she needs to feel connected. And when we love our wives as Christ loved the church, when we're demonstrating that kind of love, it creates that security, that value, that sense of connection. It plays to how God designed women and wives in their DNA, the things that they need. So I'm going to ask us, how do we help our wives feel safe? That's my question. What are the things we do to make them feel safe? In all aspects of safety. We protect them, provide them with a sense. We're gonna protect them when we're walking down the road, right? We're gonna put them on the inside, and so if the car comes, it's gonna hit us, right? We're going to carry an umbrella for them, and we're gonna be out in the rain. We're gonna provide for them a safe place that's warm, and all of those kinds. So physical safety. What's another area?
There's an emotional aspect to it too. Your reactions to things can't be so off the charts that you make her feel dumb.
Sure.
Yeah. Emotional safety.
Absolutely. We're not gonna be a fireball that gets angry and shouts and beats her into where she feels unsafe around us. We're going to nurture and care and love and make her feel valued. Some other aspects. Rick?
I mean, financial security, obviously, is real important. I once asked a couple of my female friends to rate like 1 through 10 the things that were super important to them. And after they got past the spiritual aspects, the first one was finances. That was something that was really important. And they were not talking about it from a worldly standpoint, but just, can you provide for me and for our children so that we're okay? So.
And it doesn't mean that we have to have the fanciest house or the most fancy cars, but the idea that the Bible talks about when finances is freedom from debt. So it is this idea of trying to get ourselves out of to where we're not worried about losing everything. That is what kind of goes to security. It's not that you have to have the fanciest or the. So, Dave?
Make sure she's included on any type of decisions you make. Don't leave her out in the cold, as people call it, you know.
Sure.
You're there as one, and one should make the decision, not just you alone. You know, one person make it, but do it together. And if they get disagree, you can talk about it and stuff like that, and maybe they'll change their mind or something. Include them in things that's being done on the house or financially or anything else.
Very good answer. Seeking her input. Honey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? I value your opinion. You have good judgment. This is what, and it can be just anything. Seeking her, making her feel that she's part of it. That goes to security as well. Anything else on that one? How do we make her feel valued? These kind of things kind of run together, I know, but how do you make her feel valued?
Make time for her.
Yeah. Spend time together. Show her that her happiness is a priority to you, and show interest in her day and what was going on. Rick?
When it comes to the intimacy side of things, letting her know that she satisfies you, that you're not looking and you're not talking about other women, but that her value to you in the intimate realm is that you satisfy my needs. I am completed that way with you, so that she's not left wondering, anything along those lines is never a good. So I want to make sure that she knows that she fulfills that role and that you're fully satisfied with her.
Absolutely. You're delightful. You please me. And all those kind of things that you can say that just help, she knows deep down that you are satisfied and pleased with her. Dave?
Bring her gifts.
Okay.
You know, flowers or candy or something. Dude, just show how much you do love her. It doesn't have to be a special occasion. Just, hey, I bought these for you because I care for you.
Mm-hmm. So gifts, all those different love languages. Yes, Larry.
To show her value, you include her in all the decision making and things, because that way she's actually part of the decision making and part of the head of the household is both as a team. So you run, with the children and the making of the house and everything, you're together. So you include her and give her value, not that she just feels like, okay, I'm just a dependent or anything. No, she is the spouse. You're both the husband and wife, and you have value because you included each other in all the decision making and all the things that are vital to the household itself.
Sure. And guys, we like to solve problems. Sometimes we tend to think independently, and we miss out on an opportunity to grow together. Hey, we're in this together. Whether it's things around the house, getting maintenance and those types of things, and just setting it in order, or dealing with the financial situations, or parenting and raising the children. When you collaborate and let her in, that makes her feel valued. It also makes her feel connected. We're working on this together. And so, guys, I'll speak to us. Don't just try to solve everything on your own. While it's our job to protect and provide, it's a team effort. So, going into this last one, things that make her feel connected. Anything different than what we've said thus far? Guys, how do you, when you are dealing with a problem, any problem, it could be at work, it could be something that that's has you feeling defeated maybe a little bit or discouraged. I'm curious, what do you tend to do? How do you process that when there's something that's deeply troubling you? And I'm not talking about something that has to do with your wife. What is a tendency, Maverick?
Usually requires something that's physically aggressive for myself.
Okay.
Whether that's chopping wood or shooting guns or something, just to get out some aggression and some frustration so that I can actually think and focus on the problem and not just be annoyed by it.
Okay, so that's a good positive way to handle it. Saw down a tree, pound some nails, do something like that. Does everybody process it that way? Does anybody have a different way that men tend to internalize issues?
No, you just push it down and bottle it up. That's what I tend to do.
Okay. How does that manifest itself maybe sometimes with our relationship to our wives, I guess?
Short tempers.
We can be short, grumpy.
Unfortunately, it puts a damper on the relationship because you isolate yourself and you're not anymore working as a team. Unfortunately, I speak with experience in this because I do the same thing, bottle it up and keep it to myself, and then sometimes explode, or sometimes it's like I just walk around in a great depression, and there's really no need for that. I have a wonderful wife I can talk to. I just don't, and I need to. And we had to work out a lot of issues doing that.
Is Larry alone in that you tend to maybe cocoon, you kind of turn it in, maybe it shuts off affection and those kind of things because you're troubled by this. You don't feel maybe amorous, or you're looking at this issue. That is the way I tend to process things. I tend to cocoon, isolate, just like you, Larry. Now, for those wives that have that issue, how does it make you feel when your husband does this and you're not in the know? You're not in the know. I'm curious how women process when their husbands tend to shut down a little bit.
I was thinking about that, all the men talking, and it's made me feel like I have done something wrong, because you're not talking to me about it. I said, how are you, what's going on? Oh, nothing. And then it's, okay, I'm processing in my mind, what have I done to make him feel this way?
Any other wives ever do this when your husband's that way? I see Lori shaking her head. I was talking, Rob and I were talking about, this is what happened. She does the exact same thing. Women tend to say, what have I done? and they put it on themselves. They're rethinking all the different interactions, conversations. I said something wrong, and now they're upset with me. And it may not have anything to do with them, but it does affect our behavior to them, because maybe we're not lovey-dovey, touchy, because we're troubled, we're down, we're discouraged. This has been a problem for Robin and I early on, because guys, sometimes we don't know how to even articulate it. And we're not someone that just wants to open up and talk about our things. Sometimes it's a challenge for us to let our wives into our world and find out, hey, I am really dealing with a difficult situation at work, or I feel like I'm a failure in my parenting right now. And we don't open up about that. But it is or sometimes it would happen to us when we would go to visit her family. And after a couple days, I start getting uncomfortable because I don't know what my role is here. Am I her husband, or is she? I don't know how. I couldn't explain why it was. I just started feeling inadequate because I didn't know my role when I was in that situation. And I would shut down, and Robin's thinking, what have I done wrong? And it has nothing to do with it. But I couldn't even explain it. That's just how I felt. And it's taken years for me to learn to say, dear, I'm dealing with something right now. It is not your fault. Don't take it on yourself, and don't. I mean, finally I'm letting her off the hook, and because now when I tell her that, she's more empathetic. She's wanting to help. Otherwise, she's getting angry with me. After a while, it tends to become a barrier, and so I just share this with conflict resolution, guys. We need to let our wives into our world and what's going on. And sometimes it just means talking about work or something that's a challenge for us or something that we're enjoying. Learning to talk. Women like to talk more than men generally. They're open, they want to share. We run out of words by the end of the day, and we just want to come home and sit on the couch. And I just share that this is one of the fundamental differences. And when we're dealing with a problem, learn to at least let them know, so that they don't beat themselves up over it. Rick?
It's kind of a side connection to this. I think about early on in our marriage, I realized how important it was that I run interference for her from certain family members who were just aggressive and bossy and wanted to push their way in. And she basically got to a point where she said, some of these things, I don't want to know them, you just handle them, because they stress me. And so a lot of the dynamic too is knowing what are the things that she wants to know, the things that are going on, whether it's myself or other things, and what are the things that she's like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know if my mom or my dad or my aunt or my grandma is saying these things. So again, that goes to being connected enough to know, to read each other, to know, okay, something that I'm dealing with is one of those things that you don't want to know. And being able to have that kind of trust and dialogue. So it's a balance even in that, as much as we struggle to articulate what's going on. Sometimes their wives are like, I'm better off not knowing, because it protects them from some of that stuff.
Yeah, there's a time to share and maybe a time not to share. I think so, so very good. Again, we talked about, what does she really want to know? What does the wife really want to know? Well, this one, I'm setting you up because for Sunday night, I think it was. She wants to know, am I the most valuable person in the world to you? That's what they want to know. And that is not spoken. That is deep down feelings. All right, I want to talk about men for just real quick. We talked about this the other minute. We're driven to find simplicity. That's what we want. And we want to focus it, define it, analyze it, and solve it. That's what I mean. We want to make it simple. And we'll talk a little bit how women are a little bit different. They want to explore all the facets. We're looking to focus. Women want to explore all the possibilities. That can be a source of conflict in a relationship. Men want to know three things. Is life going to be an expression of confidence? And I ask this, what are we seeking? What kind of confidence are we seeking as husbands? Whose confidence? Our wives, our families, do they trust me? Do you trust me, dear? We're also trying to get our own confidence, right? Particularly early on, this whole thing of being responsible for a family, that can be intimidating, and we're going through that, and so wives have to understand we're trying to get comfortable with that in our role. So it's our confidence, but it's very much linked to our wives, and then later on, our children and our family's confidence. So I think I was going to ask something there. How can you How can he know you have confidence in him? I put this out to the wives here. What are things that you can do? It's that you respect him. How do you convey that? And maybe how do you not convey that either? What are ways to communicate your confidence in your husband? I'm not looking for something super profound here. There's just a couple different ways you can do that. Okay, Tom's gonna. How does Farley do it for you? Yeah.
I could tell you one thing that kind of shattered my confidence early on was, she had a wonderful dad, and he was a great guy. But sometimes she would go to him with some problems that I wish she had come to me with first. And that makes you feel like she doesn't have confidence in you.
Thank you for sharing that, Tom. That's a big one. I've learned this too. Even with the best of relationships, wives are afraid that their husbands trust their mom more than them. They're competing with the mom. Okay, that's just it's just the way it is. And we may not know that, but if we do something like that, what Tom said, just the flip side of it. She makes better cornbread. They're always feeling it in competition with the mom. And it sounds like we do that with Dad too. It's the same way. So recognizing that and how we perceive those little, you may not mean anything by it, by going and say, hey, my dad was really handy and he could do anything. And then they don't say it. What about us? What about me? Am I not good at all? Those kind of things get taken. It goes to our confidence. Patty, you look like you had something you wanted to say. No? Anybody? Rick?
I was just going to say that sometimes the simple verbalization enough for her to just say, or the thank you for handling that situation or whatever. So a lot of the gratitude that we've talked about in previous classes is they may seem like little bricks, but they're building a strong foundation of, I know she's got confidence in me through all the little things that she has said and done, and that way I'm not questioning every decision, but does she feel like I'm competent? Because it's been there, and so it's a part of that continual daily gratitude of, I know she is. She doesn't have to stand there and shout it from the rooftops, but doing that sometimes really, really makes a guy feel good, especially if you're in public and they're saying, oh, he took care of this and did this and that. For me, that's just like, hey, I feel like Superman when she does that. So
absolutely. So telling us is good, right? At home, telling us in a different setting is even better. So maybe, hey, Dad, he is so good at this. Telling Dad about bragging on us in front of Dad makes us feel valued, appreciated, capable, confident. Anytime speaking well of your husband. It's going to, those secondhand kind of compliments that come back from somebody else are even better. To find out she was speaking well of you to someone else and you didn't even know about it. So just speaking well of him with others, honoring him in public. Yeah. Of course, these things work both ways. It works for the wives as well, but particularly for the husband because we want to feel like we're doing a good job in providing, protecting, and loving you. Keeping his life well ordered and simple. This can go, it sounds silly, but even things around the house, knowing that men like to have things well arranged and everything in its place. Some of those kind of things that happen in the home are kind of an unspoken way of showing honor and respect. I know this is the way my husband is. These are things that he likes, and I'm going to do my best to try. Another thing, I'll just put it on, yielding to his desire, being an accommodating partner and lover. That shows definitely in a very tangible way that you respect and honor him. Is life going to be filled with admiration? This is nothing. Husbands we've said this before, they want to be their wife's hero. They want to be admired and looked up to and valued. It kind of goes with that. And then finally, is life going to be filled with affection? And that is, Larry talked about this the other night. What do we want? We want you. And I think that, there's there's just something to be said. The way God made us with testosterone and those things that are in us, you are attractive to your husband, and please don't hold that against him. You know, that isn't that complimentary? You know, it doesn't. You know, would you want it any other way? And so, just in men, you know, I think they pride themselves on being logical and focused and productive, and they like to make sense, and they long for simple things. But when it comes to this, alongside that is the man's desire for his wife, and just recognize that is almost constant. You walk by the room and things changed, and just know that and feel good about that. So it's his need, and it's your privilege, and please don't neglect that. All right, I want to move on. I do want to talk a little bit about some differences, because I think it's just interesting how men and women are different, and even it's not just physically and emotional and mentally and sexually. There's difference. And if you don't know that, then it can cause great conflict. But if you do learn, we complement one another, I think, so well. It's the way God made us. And so if we kind of buy into those differences and recognize it really can help and make for a strong marriage when you understand and complement one another. But here's some differences I want to go over. Physical differences. Women have a greater, what did I write down again? Constitutional vitality. They're made to live longer, generally 4 to 8 years longer than men. Women have a lower metabolism. They burn fuel slower. Women have a stronger hold on life. Even in utero, there are fewer miscarriages with girls than there are with boys. Skeletal differences. Men have shorter heads and legs, but longer torsos. When their first finger is longer than their third finger, and it's opposite for women. Usually the third finger is longer than the first finger. Just really fundamental things that are different. Women have larger stomachs, kidneys, and liver, but smaller lungs. Women's blood contains 20% fewer red blood cells, so they tire more easily, and they're prone to fainting. Men don't usually faint. Usually women do. It's because they don't have as many red blood cells. Men are 50% stronger than women typically. Women's heart beats more rapidly, 80 beats per minute versus 72 for men. Their blood pressure is usually 10 points lower, and their lung capacity is 30% lower. Women can withstand higher temps than men. You ever notice your wife likes the shower hotter than you do? I mean, women, it's because the metabolism, they regulate temperature better. Women's thyroid is larger and more active. Men have larger brains by 10%, but they only use the left side. Women have more nerve endings, and they use both sides of their brains. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Emotional differences. Women tend to be more personal. They have deeper interest in people and in feelings. Men are more preoccupied with tasks and practical things in life. These are not always true, but I'm just saying, generally speaking. Men are more competitive. They have an urge to conquer. Women want to build relationships. Women buy marriage books for themselves and for their husband. Do you notice that? Men don't usually buy marriage books, but there's a lot of marriage books out there because women buy them and give them to their husband. This is interesting. Well, men are more aggressive. When successful, men are likely to attribute it to their own skills and own knowledge. When they fail, they tend to blame factors that are outside their control. It was somebody else's fault. Women are just the opposite. When women fail, they blame themselves. And when they succeed, they tend to blame it, attribute it to luck or something fell in my favor. They don't accept, they're just opposite from the way men are. Eric, you want to comment on that?
Something along the line, like when I was in college and studied physiology. I don't know, I came up with this, and I don't know if this happened from the beginning, if God knew it would fall, or if it was part of it first. But it always seems to me when you look at the female body versus the male, the female body is designed to bring life into the world, and we're more designed to take life out.
Oh, wow.
It's just, I mean, it's because God used us for war and destruction.
Yeah.
And the women brought life into the world, and just like you said, and I kind of like in war, if you tell a man you have to go until he thinks a lot less about it than a woman does. You just do what we're told. Because you like the in my people that brain, multiple sides of the brain to think about things. It's easier to convince a guy to tell somebody.
Well, that goes to men are more aggressive. They're willing to take greater risks. Women are generally safer in regard to whether it's smoking or seat belts or going to the dentist or the eye doctor. You know, they make the appointments for us. Men tend to not do those things. They're just generally safer. Women ask more questions. Men interrupt more. So I could go on, but it's just important to recognize these fundamental differences that I think are programmed into our DNA to how we process life. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I went through here just how the differences how they present. And that's the differences in importance of certain things like days or family connection. For women, if you don't recognize the anniversary, it goes to the relationship. You don't value the relationship if you don't remember the importance of my birthday or these anniversaries. For men, those days, our birthday could almost be forgotten and it wouldn't matter as much. But for women, it's tied to the relationship. Same thing with family. A woman's, I think Reagan will call once every 2 weeks, okay? He doesn't need to call home and talk to mom and dad all the time. Julian may be a little bit better, but Danae every single night, okay? A woman's need to talk to her mom and her family, those kind of things. Men can go a lot different. That's a fundamental, the importance of family. So living close to family, being able to communicate, go visit, generally more important. But we need to understand that nature. And so just not think our wives are just like us and they can go without those things. Being cognizant of that. For guys, the importance of lawn equipment, okay, and chainsaws or whatever it is, are the things that our need to be outside and do things that where we can be successful and we can conquer, we can solve a problem. Hunting, things like that. That is a fundamental. It's something that we do well. We want to engage in things that we can conquer in. That's harder for women to understand that. So. And I mention these things just because we can be oblivious to how our spouse interprets things. And it's important to be learning these things as we go through marriage and to talk about them and to explore them. It doesn't happen by accident. You have to be looking. Men want to analyze and solve problems, resolve it. That we're driven to it by nature. Women, when you talk about thinking, a lot of times they want to make things complicated because they want to explore all the different options. You know, men we're wanting to focus attention and condense it. Women often like to explore facets. Recognize that. It's a great combination when you work together in that, but it can be a struggle during, conversations. He's pulling it in, she's pushing it out. We like to win. This idea. Let me see. Guys like to win. We're all about conquest. Women, our wives like to relate. For them, it's always about connections. And, for us guys, everything is a task to be done. So a lot of times when we wanted to go to Florida to see her family, that was a task. Let's get in the car and man, we're going to get there. And I'm going to make it to Atlanta in 12 hours. And to me, it's a task to be won because she wants to go there. But for her, it's like, dear, I had to go to the bathroom an hour ago, and it's a task. We're not, but no. See how that gets interpreted. We think we're doing what she wants. She wants to get there, but we need to be considerate of our wives and don't get caught up in that. All right, I've gone through a lot of stuff here. I was trying to remember. Okay, this was one thing. This passage it all goes to what Peter tells us in 1 Peter 3:7. You husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way. And we need to learn to understand them. It goes the other way too, but particularly things like what we talked about earlier, when we learn to share our world so that they know, so that they're not blaming themselves, because that's what women, our wives tend to do. The other thing, I just share this about being aware about just physical I don't know if I can, physical strength. The other day, Rob and I were moving this, I don't have my manpower anymore, so I don't have Reagan and Julian, so she has to help sometimes. And we'll be moving this, it's a bench that we've made from our living room into our dining room. And I lift it up, and it's just nothing. And I look back and she's really struggling with that. And this can happen sometimes that we don't realize we're 50% stronger generally. And so something that is easy for us is not going to be easy for them. And she'll remind me of that regularly. And so I don't know, for what it's worth. If you want to have a story like that where your husband is, what's wrong? Why are you, we're on a hike and we're just going to town and our wives are tired and fatigued, and recognize that. Yeah. Yeah. Now, women can go all day long, their duration, and often do. And so stamina, things like that, as long as it's not pure physical exertion, their endurance, Robin can run me into the ground sometimes. So I just share that when it's talking about being aware about physical strength. Yes, Eric. And then, okay. Sure.
Don't take your wife on a 13-mile canoe trip when she's 7 months pregnant.
Oh boy, I would sure like to hear more about that, but enough said. Enough said on that. So, yes, Sarvi.
This last verse you had up there, that right there, if you look at that, if we truly admit it, that is a problem with the life in women today, because men have treated them through the ages like a second-class citizen. And that's why that women today have lack of confidence and all that, I think, and that's our fault, because we have not shown the proper respect that they desire and need and deserve.
Very good. You held that microphone very good off to the side. But you're true. This age of feminism, I think it's not. I'm like you. I don't blame the women for that. It's we're getting what we deserve because of the way that women have been treated. And I tell you, if we do it God's way, love like the Lord and love like our own bodies, and live with one another in an understanding way, and be tender and kind, and put Connie on a pedestal like you do, brother, then it solves a lot of societal problems. Real quickly, we've got just a couple minutes. I want to share this thing about conflict resolution. It's just a perspective on conflict and our efforts to resolve. First of all, hey, these are areas where we can strengthen our relation. A lot of times we think about, this is a problem, we're going to get beyond it. Think about, these are the areas where we can really grow and strengthen our marriage. We can they're the opportunities to build strength, okay? So try to embrace that idea about, conflict is never pleasant. But these are, if I learn to listen and talk and we share one another and we get to resolution, this is where we'll really make our marriage strong. And then the other thing is, don't ignore it or pretend that it's not there. Unresolved conflict always comes up somewhere else, and it's uglier. And so don't just pretend that it didn't happen. That is not conflict resolution. So I want to share this. This is something I saw in a marriage book. It's a kind of a diagram that shows how to, let me see if I can have a laser pointer. It's just a graph. From here, this is how important the issue is, from 0 to 100 to us, how important it is. The next time over here on the y-axis is how important is the relationship to you. So we're going to plot different issues on here. So if something is really important to me, okay, but I don't really care about the relationship, then all I want to do is win. I'm just going to drive over the top of somebody to get what I want, because the issue is important, but the relationship is not. All I want to do is win. Over here, if the issue is unimportant and the relationship is unimportant, that's when you just, I'm not going to address the issue. It's just not important. Withdraw. Over on this side, this is one, if the issue is unimportant and the relationship has great value, then I'm just going to give in. I'm going to yield. I'm going to let her have her way because, it's the color of the draperies or something like that. If I don't really care, I'm going to incline to yield, and there's nothing wrong with that. Over here on this side, here's where it gets to be, the relationship is very important, and the issue is really important. It's key that we get to resolution on this. And I share this box because, and then somewhere in the middle here is compromise, but notice that this is the area that we want to operate in, generally, is this upper area, where this is the good and healthy thing. We're yielding on things that don't matter, we're resolving on things that we both feel strongly about, and then we're compromising in areas where that is needed. This is the good area. All these other areas, the object generally with our wives, because the relationship value should be up here. And so we're going to, oops. We shouldn't be in this area down here. The idea of winning an argument, winning the debate, really, when you win, you're making the other person lose. We're not trying to do that. Don't try to win, we're trying to resolve. Let's try to operate in this area up here. Because this is important, and then the issues are going to fall somewhere on this. So I just share that as a way of looking at different problems. They'll plot differently on that graph, but work in that healthy way of responding to conflict. All right. And with that, I think we're out of time, and appreciate for all your comments tonight. Thank you.
Song before our invitation tonight will be Saints Lift Your Voices. There is none like him, none can compare. No God is equal, no prince is heir. Lift up your eyes and see his great might. Soar like an eagle on wings of flight. Saints, lift your voices, though dark your days. Lift up your spirit, sing out his praise. Upward the calling, brighter the light. Soaring like eagles on wings of flight. Have you not known him? Have you not heard? God is creator of all the earth. Lift up your eyes and see his great might. Soar like an eagle on wings of flight. Saints, lift your voices, though dark your days. Lift up your spirit, sing out his praise. Upward the calling, brighter the light. Soaring like eagles on wings of flight. Some will grow weary, sin they'll pursue. Servants of God, their power he'll renew. Lift up your eyes and see his great might. Soar like an eagle on wings of flight. Saints, lift your voices, though dark your days. Lift up your spirit, sing out his praise. Upward the calling, brighter the light. Soaring like eagles on wings of flight.
So now that I have to drive to work, much longer than I've ever driven before, I have started to listen to some podcasts here and there. And the other day I was listening to one, and one of the people said a statement that I thought was pretty good. She said, "Success is preparation meets opportunity." Now she was talking about something completely different than what I'm going to talk about, but she wanted to always be prepared, so when opportunity presented itself, she could be successful at it. But as I was thinking about it over the rest of the day or so, I really started thinking about how true that statement is for us spreading the gospel. Without proper preparation, when we are met with an opportunity to teach, we won't be successful. Now, I don't think the opposite of that is always true. Just because you're prepared and you meet opportunity doesn't mean you're always going to be successful. But you're going to have a much higher success rate if you're prepared than if you're not. So what can we do to be prepared? I think first we need to pray. We need to pray to open our minds and our hearts are open to the Word, also that we can retain the Word. Then we should put work into it. Study your Bible. If you don't know how to study the Bible, read it. Just read it. Learn the stories. Learn the truth. Then when we aren't actively studying, we should be still thinking about it. Keep your mind in practice and set yourself some goals. Goals that are challenging but achievable. Those are going to be individual to yourself and where you are in your learning. We don't want to find ourselves in situations where we are unprepared to teach. 1 Peter 3:15 says, "People may ask you, why do you trust God to help you? You must always be ready to answer them about that. But when you tell them, be kind and polite." We need to be ready at all times to answer questions about God, tell others about Jesus, to change someone's heart. I talk about this tonight. Really, I'm talking to myself. I'm not as prepared as I should be or want to be. So I challenge myself, and I'm going to challenge all of you to be more prepared because success is preparation meets opportunity. If you haven't committed yourself to Christ yet, you are not prepared for what is to come. Now is the time to be baptized into the body of Christ. Or if you have stumbled and need help, need to confess or need our prayers, please don't be ashamed or scared to walk up this aisle. I know it's intimidating, but come up here and sit down next to one of us, and I promise you, you'll feel better. If we can help in any way, please come forward.
God calling yet shall I not hear, Earth's pleasure shall I still hold dear, shall life's surpassing years all fly, and still my soul in slumber lie. God is calling, He's calling yet. God is calling, sinner heed His pleading voice. God calling yet shall I not rise, and I His loving voice despise, and basely His kind every pay. He calls me still, can I delay? God is calling, calling yet. God is calling, sinner heed His pleading voice. God